Right now, more than 2.5 million people are being urged to evacuate as Hurricane Ian barrels towards Florida with threats of catastrophic flooding and life-threatening storm surge. The storm has already brought damaging conditions to the state. At least 2 possible tornadoes were reported in Broward County. The system first made landfall in Cuba Tuesday morning as a Category 3 hurricane, leaving major flooding and damage and knocking out the island's power for thousands of residents.
President Biden is pledging federal assistance to those in need after the hurricane passes, while FEMA and the Pentagon are at the ready with supplies, personnel, and National Guard to provide support.
Here's NBC's Drew Petrimo from Washington with what happens next.
My administration is on alert and in action to help the people of Florida.
As Hurricane Ian takes aim at the Sunshine State, President Biden is promising a forceful federal response to help those in the storm's path.
I've approved Florida's request for emergency assistance, and I directed my team to surge federal assistance there before the storm hit.
FEMA dispatching 700 workers to the state, providing relief where needed.
These teams are going to coordinate search and rescue efforts by land, by air, and by sea.
To 10 feet of storm surge.
Florida's governor activated 5,000 National Guard troops, nearly 4 million meals, 3.5 million liters of water, and hundreds of generators are on standby. Emergency responders are also gathering fuel, and the Red Cross is setting up dozens of shelters for evacuees.
I can tell you that our biggest concern as we wait for this storm to make landfall is storm surge. And I will note that storm surge is a leading cause of hurricane-related fatalities.
The Pentagon says National Guard troops will deploy to areas impacted by the storm.
These guardsmen will provide route clearing, search and rescue teams to support flood control and security. Aviation assets like helicopters are also on standby to assist as required.
Guardsmen are also on standby at military bases in 5 neighboring states as final preparations are made before landfall. Drew Petrimo, NBC News, Washington.
All right, we'll keep you up to date throughout the day on that. Right now, police in Commerce City are looking for someone who shot another driver. The shooting happened yesterday just after 5 p.m. on 56th Avenue near Brighton Boulevard. That's not far from Suncor. The police say the victim was stopped in traffic when another driver pulled up, got out of his car, and started shooting. The man who was shot is in the hospital with serious injuries. Police say the shooter was driving a red Ford Ranger with a white topper shell. It took off. They're asking anyone who saw what happened to call Commerce City Police.
The Arapahoe County coroner says the fentanyl crisis in Colorado and across the country is unlike anything she's ever seen before. 9 News reporter John Glasgow joins us now in studio. And John, fentanyl-related deaths are up 50% there over the last 2 years.
Yeah, 50%. That is a very high number. Dr. Kelly Lear has been the Arapahoe County coroner for nearly 2 decades. She says that in the past, fentanyl deaths typically occurred because the drug was found in something else, cocaine, meth, or heroin. Now it's startling to see that she says many people who are overdosing are knowingly taking fentanyl and gambling with their lives.
What used to we just call the opioid epidemic has now transitioned to just flat out fentanyl epidemic.
So the State Department data shows fentanyl was responsible for half of the overdose deaths in Colorado last year. According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, as little as 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. Now that's depending on a person's body size, tolerance, and past usage. They say that there is no regulation on potency. In Arapahoe County, nearly 60% of the fentanyl-related deaths this year were people between the ages of 21 and 40. Dr. Lear's biggest fear is the death trends are only getting worse.
The scary thing is how far will it go? How long will it continue? Will it level out? And really the scary thing is what's next, because it was oxycodone and now it's fentanyl.
Yeah, so Dr. Lear says fentanyl-related deaths are not limited to just one social class or someone who is stereotyped as a drug user. Sadly, it's a wide spectrum of people. Dr. Lear has also noted that suicide deaths were up 25% in 2021. And while these deaths are difficult to identify a cause, she does believe that the pandemic contributed to the higher numbers as people had less access to resources.
Some of those numbers, wow, they are startling for sure.
Staggering.
John, thank you.
You're welcome.
We know that discussions about suicide can be difficult, so if you or someone you know is considering self-harm, there are people available to talk and offer support 24/7. You can call Colorado Crisis Services at 844-493-8255, or you can text the word TALK to 38255. You can also dial 988 for the National Mental Health Hotline.
Well, Denver's program sending mental health professionals in place of police on certain calls is very popular, and it's being done in other cities now too. Now, some community groups that helped start that program, it's called the STAR program, say they're being shut out of plans for the future. The city says it's only temporary. They're temporarily shutting down STAR's Community Advisory Committee. Mark Salinger has more.
The city calls it a temporary pause. Some members of the STAR Community Advisory Committee worry it's more than that.
We are fighting against this program being something it's not.
Vinny Cervantes.
The advisory committee is meant to be the voice of the people.
Miguel Ceballos.
We as experts have to have a seat at the table for STAR to be STAR.
And Alexander Landau all have a seat on the committee, or had a seat before the Denver Department of Public Health and Environment sent an email to the members on Monday canceling all future meetings for upcoming months. The department promised an enhanced community engagement model next year. Members of the committee see it as a way to silence them for raising concerns about the program's future.
What is lost is a voice of the community.
This is the only mechanism of community and public oversight and input into this program.
The committee has been vocal against STAR responding to calls with any police officers or members of the city's new street enforcement team, which has the power to ticket people. STAR denies that's ever happened.
STAR have never requested police backup due to a safety issue in any neighborhood across the entire city.
Carly Salon is the operations manager for STAR. She says 30% of calls STAR has responded to were initially dispatched to DPD. The reason STAR and police officers are sometimes on scene together.
So if an officer shows up on scene first, recognizes that STAR is the most appropriate response and there really isn't a need for a law enforcement presence, they will request STAR over the radio.
As the program expands, the community groups that helped start it want to make sure they have a seat at the table.
That's what's at stake. The dissolvement entirely of STAR as we know it and the rebirth of a much larger co-responder program.
That was Mark Salinger reporting. The Community Advisory Committee says it'll continue holding its regularly scheduled meetings, though it's not clear just how effective those will be without the Health Department employees involved. Health Department says it hopes to have an outline for a new method to get community input by sometime early next year.